Good morning, everybody. Okay, so today we're going to be making some applesauce as well as canning it. This is something I've tried in the past a couple years ago, probably about 7 years ago. I canned applesauce, probably about 7 quarts. I took it out of the cupboard in the middle of winter to have some blueberry applesauce, and it was all moldy. I was very upset. Half were moldy, half were not. I could not figure out why. So I did some research, and it's very important. This was before I had started canning a lot of things, before I really got into it. The only thing I knew how to can was our tomatoes, which I learned at a young age to can. My mom would can it to make fresh tomato sauce throughout the year. So that's what I learned how to do. I wanted to get into more. I didn't really know much. I just figured you could just can it. Since then, I have learned a lot. So I'm going to go over a couple of things that I've learned are necessary when canning and some things that I prefer. There's some tools and things like that that I've just kind of learned along the way. So I've been last year and this year really got into canning. I tried a lot of new things last year. I tried some peaches, some green beans. I really liked the peaches. I was worried that they wouldn't hold their texture very well, but they actually did really well. So I got 3 big boxes of peaches this year, and I got about 52 jars, quart-sized jars of peaches. I missed the window for the green beans, which was very sad. But you know, I've kept busy with strawberry jam, blueberry jam. We just got done with, sorry, my kids, with elderberry jam. We go out hiking, we pick wild elderberries. And we turn that into either elderberry syrup for when we're sick or elderberry jam. So that was new this year. I had made elderberry syrup before, but I had ordered dehydrated elderberries online, and that's how I would make it. Well, this year was with fresh elderberries. We didn't have, because of moving and getting things ready, we didn't have the YouTube channel up for me to do that. But I can, if you have any questions, I can always kind of tell you the process. I know for me, it's always easier for me to watch the process than to just hear about it. So today we're doing applesauce. My mom's apples are the best. I really don't like anybody else's apples. They're not too sweet. They're not too tart. They're really good for applesauce and apple pie. So every year I go and I take as many apples as possible. We eat a lot of applesauce throughout the winter time. We love it. So this year, after doing much research on canning applesauce, we're doing it. Normally I would freeze it. I'd make the applesauce, then freeze it. But we're trying to be as self-sufficient as possible. And one of those things is being able to rely on canned goods versus putting things in the freezer and going to the grocery store. So canning is a great way to preserve those things. So a few tools that I like, getting into canning, you can buy canning kits that will come with the, let me turn this down a little bit, that will come with a lot of different things, like, sorry, the kids. Creed, I'm in the middle of something, honey. I'll be right back. Okay, had to deal with an argument. So you can buy a canning kit, and it will have a couple of these tools in it. These jar grabby things are awesome because you're going to be handling with a lot of hot jars, and this will save your hands. You do build up a tolerance to handling hot jars without needing them. Some hot jars, not completely. So funnel is very important because you can't get anything around the rims of the jars, and it just makes it a lot easier, especially if you're doing things like peaches. You're going to end up with a huge mess if you don't have a funnel. You obviously need your jars are important. Your lids, these are your lids, and your rings. One thing that I find very helpful is having a couple of large pots. So this is your normal canner. that people use for water bath canning. It fits 7-quart jars. It has the rack that you can pull up. When I really got into canning, I went and bought a 23-quart pressure canner. I absolutely love my pressure canner, and then I got an 8-quart, I think that's 8-quart pressure canner. I love them. I love them, love them, love them. I use them a lot. You need to use a pressure canner for certain things you're canning. Like meat, we order cow meat from a butcher up north. We usually get quarter or a whole cow. And like I said, I'm trying to get away from using the freezer. So I've canned a lot of meat, and that has to be done by pressure canner. Applesauce can be with a water bath canner because of the acidity. You do have to add lemon juice or citric acid to bring that acidity up even more. That is what I skipped many years ago when canning, is it was not acidic enough. So my recipe is about 12 pounds of apples, 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. You can add sugar, but we don't do sugar in our house. And honestly, it's just as tasty. The first batch of applesauce I'm doing is blueberry. Blueberry applesauce is our favorite. We've done peach, we've done cinnamon. We just really love the blueberry. So I used blueberries that we picked earlier in the year. I kept them in the freezer. I add them. All right, so let's get into it. I will show you. Selah and I beforehand went through and we cut up all of our apples. A huge thing for applesauce, you want a food mill, because otherwise you're going to be peeling and coring every single apple. It's exhausting. With the food mill, you can leave the skin on, you can leave the cores in, and it will not go through the little blade that is in there. So this has saved me a ton of time. I just quarter them up and I throw them in my 23-quart stock pot, pressure canner, whatever you want to call it. I fill it up. This is about 12 pounds of apples, maybe a little bit more, probably closer to 18. I put it on low to medium heat. I do add about a quart of water, otherwise it will start to stick. You're going to have to watch it closely, and every couple of minutes you are going to have to stir it. Because it can start to burn on the bottom and get sticky. Now, like this blueberry applesauce batch I was in the middle of making lunch as well. I lost track. It did get burnt on the bottom a little bit. So if you do happen to burn on the bottom, when you're scraping out the apples to put in the food mill, just don't scrape up the burnt stuff. Leave that on the bottom, wash it out later. But you do have to pay close attention to it so it doesn't burn. So after they're all cooked, what I do is I take either a glass measuring cup, whatever is safe to go in, the hot liquid is fine. I scoop out the cooked apples. I pour them into my food mill here. Here is my food mill, and it is super easy to do. Let me see if I can put this somewhere where you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So there's the food mill. It goes right in there, and as you turn it, it pushes it right through the bottom. It leaves all the skin and the seeds and the core in the top, and your applesauce is going to come out the bottom there. You can do chunky applesauce. You just wouldn't be able to put it through the food mill. You'd have to do it peel and core it and cook it down that way, because obviously this grinds it smooth. So I'm just going to bring it through, and it comes right out the bottom. Okay, and you can see it leaves a lot of the skin and the seeds in there, and it brings all of it right down the bottom. Okay. There's your applesauce. I had to start doing it in a separate bowl because this one obviously is very, very close to the top. So we're gonna pour this last little bit into the pan here. Now when you can your applesauce, you're gonna put it through the food mill and then you will add your lemon juice or your citric acid. So my recipe is for 12 pounds of apples, you're gonna add 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. Let me grab my lemon juice and then we'll move on to how we actually can it. Now when you can your applesauce, I've had my jars in the water bath canner. I brought them to a boil for about 10 minutes to help sterilize them. You want your jars to be hot, your lids to be warm, and your applesauce to be hot too. It's called the hot pack method, where everything's hot. Then you put it back into the water bath canner, and you would boil them for 20 minutes and then let them come out and cool down and they will seal. Let me grab my my lemon juice. We'll heat this up a little bit. We'll add our lemon juice and then I will show you how to put them in the jars and get the jars ready for canning. All right, so I have our lemon juice. Now, like I said, this is just over 12 pounds. Normally, it would be 12 pounds, 4 tablespoons. Since I have more than 4 pounds of apple here, I'm just gonna guess. All right, we're gonna hope that this all fits in one pan. My goodness, I did not think this through very well. This kind of stuff drives my husband nuts because, okay, well, I can only fit 3 tablespoons in there. There's so much applesauce. I'm gonna have to figure this out. Hold on. Okay, I did not plan this out very well. I'm having to take some of it out because the lemon juice will not all fit. So here's how we're gonna take some of that out. Okay, so that was 3. We'll finish putting our lemon juice in. I'm going to say about 6 tablespoons since I have over 12 pounds. Looks like I'm going to have to go to the store and get more lemon juice. Okay. And then we're just going to stir that in. So the lemon juice is for the acidity to bring it up. So that way it does not go rotten or moldy. And again, you want your applesauce nice and hot and your jars nice and hot. Now I did buy, was it 2 years ago, when COVID and everything started, you could not find canning supplies anywhere. So once things calmed down, I went online and I found reusable canning lids. Let me show you what they look like. I have not used them yet. It took the company 9 months to fill my order because they were just so overwhelmed by orders with everything. So this, before they made these lids, you'd have your plastic top and your rubber gasket, and they had a hard time getting the rubber gaskets. So you would just put this over top. I'm going to try one. Since I've never used them before, I'm going to try on just one jar. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay. So let me open this up. Like I said, my jars have already been sterilized. They've been going for a while. I usually take 2 to 3 jars out at a time, so that way they don't get too cool. If you do canning for a while, your tolerance to hot jars gets pretty good. So, all right, so I'm going to grab my funnel here, place that into the jar. I am not the cleanest cooker, baker, or canner. I am usually very messy. And like I said, it drives my husband nuts because I'll have a recipe and I'll just use it as more of a guide than following the actual recipe. So, yes. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it's best to follow the recipe. I did this before I canned my other applesauce about a week or so ago, and it came out fine, so. But if you are a stickler for following the recipe, it is 12 pounds of apples, 4 tablespoons of lemon juice, and you can add sugar to your taste. We do no sugar. All right, so when you're filling your jars, you're going to want to leave an inch of headspace. So that's probably just over an inch. This one is probably an inch, but just to be sure, I'm going to take a little bit out because if you overfill, there's not enough room and they will not can properly. And it is very frustrating when they don't can properly. Now, you're bound to have some that just don't can. They don't seal right, and that's fine. A good thing to do when you're starting canning, when you get your jars out, is to always feel around the rim. Make sure there's no chips or any irregularities that are going to cause problems with it sealing. You're going to want to wipe down the rims. Again, if there's anything on the rims or around the rims, it's not going to seal properly. So I wipe down the edges, I wipe down the tops, and you're going to put your ring on. You're only going to go till it stops. You're not going to tighten it down as hard as you can. All right. And then we're going to put it right back in the hot water. We're going to wipe it down. Grab our next lid. Make sure that's wiped down. There's dog hair. And only finger tight. You're not going any tighter than that. All right, so there's 2. Like I said, I only do 2 at a time to make sure that the jars stay warm. If you have any questions, you can comment below. I think this video is like a day late, but we've been so busy trying to figure out our closing date, pre-possession, all that fun stuff. We actually finally have a closing date for next week, so it's finally happening. I think this video hopefully will be uploaded by tonight. Today's Saturday. I think I said I was going to do it yesterday. I planned on doing all these apples yesterday and I didn't get to it. So we'll probably be doing a video in another couple of days. Introduce you guys to trying to live off grid as much as possible. I will post the recipe down below. I'll also post the links of where I got my 23-quart pressure canner and this 8-quart pressure canner. I'll also post the link for the ball canning book that I use. That's where this recipe is from. They have a lot of recipes in there. I try to follow the recipes as much as possible, but sometimes I don't. All right, so again, you're wiping down the sides. Make sure there's no applesauce on the rims or any hair, or there's no chips or anything out of them. So I'll do these up real quick, and then I will show you how to use the reusable canning lids. It's pretty much the same method. It's just a couple more pieces that you have to put together. You have the plastic top, the rubber gasket, and you put a normal lid on it like you would these. So once these are all done, the water has to be an inch above the jars. And you're going to want it to come to a rolling boil before you start your timer. Your timer is going to be for 20 minutes, whether it's quart size or pint size. So this has been sitting in warm water. I put the rubber gasket on. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to fill it up. I'm going to check for any irregularities on the jar. I'm going to wipe it down, wipe the lid down, and screw the top on just for finger tightness. And I am shocked I have not been interrupted by the kids doing this video. All right, so we're leaving our inch ahead space. This jar is really, really messy, so we're definitely gonna have to wipe it off. All right, so that's wiped off. We're gonna make sure our gasket and our lid is clean. And I'll pop it on there. Where'd my lid? Oh, there it is. We're gonna put our ring on. It's my first time using these, so we'll see how it goes. All right. So if you have any questions, comment below. I'll post those links below. And thanks for joining me.